any photographers here? Professional photographers? All right. Are there any amateur photographers here? Even the professionals are not raising their hand? All right. So I love photography. I grew up with photography. When I turned 15, I got a Canon A1 from my father, and he taught me how to use it. That's still actually my go-to camera. It's the one I use when I want to go back to taking photos like people used to. And that's on my every single profile photo. It's on my Tinder profile. It converts very well as well. And the point is, there's nothing more beautiful and more magical to me than that moment where you're pressing the shutter, where you sort of hold your breath, exhale, wait for a second, and take that shot. So that sort of obsession has always been something like, I need to do something in that space. And around 6 years ago, I had the pleasure and the luck to meet 3 other guys that were totally obsessed with photography and had that passion as well. All right. So I met these guys, photography obsessed, and we realized we had a chance to actually write the new chapter in the history of the medium. 10,000 photos were submitted back in 2010. We grew from that until this year. Our photo competition was 270,000 photos submitted. That is larger than World Press Photo. That is the absolute largest photography competition in the world. The community that we built around EyeEm has grown as well. We are over 20 million photographers, 150 different countries all over the world. And the one thing that we do is we help photographers get discovered. We help them learn. We help them experience, connect with other photographers. We produce master classes. We do photo walks. We connect the offline and the online in a way. So we're basically taking people that are passionate about imagery and helping them go that one extra step. At some point, photographers were like, what is after my next like? I'm on Instagram and I have 100 likes, 500 likes, 1,000 likes. What is next? What is my validation? And at the same time, seeing as the stock industry is such a boring, dead, rigid industry, brands and agencies were reaching out and saying, we'd like to get in touch with these photographers and license their imagery. So we launched the marketplace, and we launched it in a way where we share profits fully with photographers. We've paid hundreds of thousands of dollars out to photographers, to amateurs, every single month, and it really gives us a chance to actually work with people and help them and build a platform that is collaborative. The beauty of this is as well, because we have access to data, we have access to photographers, we can actually source content on the fly. So we ran these photo missions where we targeted people specifically based on the kind of photos that they take. We get 46,000 photos within a couple of minutes, a couple of hours, and then we were able to find those best images and license them straight away to Motorola. Photographers got paid quite a bit for amateurs. Brands got new imagery that was really awesome, and we got better. We've worked with a ton of companies, a ton of brands and agencies and so on. But I'm not here to talk about the business side of things. I'm here to talk about photography, the future of photography, what it means to be a photographer today, and what will mean to be a photographer in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And to me, this is the state of the world. This is an art exhibition by a Dutch artist called Eric Kessels. And what he did was he printed out every single photo uploaded on Flickr on one day in 2007, threw it around in a room, and turned that into an art exhibition. And to me, this represents the issue we have with data. Today, we don't have a problem of creation. Value is not because of rarity like it was 100 years ago. Today, the problem is there's millions of photos, hundreds of millions of photos uploaded every single day, and we have no way of making sense of all of that noise. So we realized that the only way to do that, the only way to scale, the only way to be able to build a global marketplace was through technology. 3-4 years, there has been this amazing shift in a field of artificial intelligence, so-called machine learning, to be specific. There's a challenge that is a very, very interesting one called ImageNet. And ImageNet was started a few years ago to test how different computer vision technologies can recognize things in photos. So they have a set of a few million photos, and you have to try to recognize whether there's a dog in the photo, whether there's a car, whether there's a tree, whether there's a cat, whatever. As recently as 2010, the machines were about 75% accurate and ridiculously slow, absolutely not scalable. With the advent of GPUs, this new form of machine learning called deep learning somehow became more viable. With a lot of data that was available, suddenly we were able to actually increase that accuracy from 75 to 80 to 90 to 90%. So, and this whole field of deep learning is a very, very interesting one for people in technology. It's effectively a way of modeling how the brain works, which is kind of interesting. You get a bunch of inputs and tell the machine, these are labeled photos of this and that, or this is text, or this is whatever, and you get output that you validate. It's just like the brain works. You don't really know the details of that. I think the biggest example of something happening on the deep learning, if you've heard of a company called DeepMind, it's a Google-owned company. They were working on solving the problem of Go, which is an old Chinese checkers game that is infinitely more complex than chess. Basically, there are more moves in the game of Go than there are grains of sand in the universe. And this is not an exaggeration. There are more moves in Go. So how typically we would solve a game like chess in engineering is you would brute force it. You can predict the number of possible moves you can do for the next 30, 40, 50, 100, 150 potential moves, and the machine knows statistically which of them will lead to a favorable outcome. The problem with Go is there are not enough computers, and you start letting the machine take creative moves. The interesting thing is this machine beat Lee Sedol, who's like the global world master. The first time a machine has ever beat someone in a game, it actually beat him in a series. His remark when he was beaten was, specifically in game 2, move 37, his remark was, that was a beautiful move. I did not expect that. I don't know where it came from. And the machine did a move that surprised him and that he called beautiful. So take it back to photography. We had to understand what is in a photo, which is kind of easy. Anyone who reads up on technology knows that there's a lot of companies that have done this stuff, some better than others. And it's quite a controversial topic, but I think it's going to be an interesting talk on that. When it comes to actually what is in the photo, you have the basic stuff, but you start to get into the emotional side of things, and that's pretty challenging. Is this a party? Is this fun? Is this sad? Is this is this a firefight, or is this a Burning Man? And that is where the machine starts to get challenged. But we've gotten to a point where we have over 93, 94% accuracy. We can pretty much take any photo we see. The other side is there are standards of beauty. I think I can show a photo to everyone here, like this Raghu Rai photo from Churchgate in Delhi. It's one of the most famous train stations there. And you will see that famous photographers over time, tend to always go for a similar look. That's Raghu Rai, that's Salgado, another really, really successful photographer, very similar vibe of that train station. Another guy, 10 years later from Reuters, did the exact same photo, and then some random person with a phone took and take out a photo. I don't think anyone will argue that the photo on the right is a particularly pleasing one. So when it comes to this visual saliency, really what you're doing is you're looking at a photo and you're saying, this is a good photo, this is a bad photo, because of all of these impulses that we get inspired from research in neuroscience. Cool, so we can tell if a photo is good or not. We can tell we can tell what is in the photo. You can go one step further and say that we actually calculate for every single photo that we're evaluating. We do around 1 million different calculations, and at the end of the day, it comes down to this. There's a good photo, there's another good photo. We try to understand how those two are similar. To give an example, the School of Visual Arts is and they focus on arts, photography, graphic design, and so on. And we ran one of those missions with them. We ran a mission, there were 12,000 photos. We asked their curators to pick their favorite 5 photos. We asked our AI to pick the favorite 5 photos. The curators picked those 2, and they picked those 3. And you can sort of tell it's all night photos. It's a lot of HDR-y, starry skies kind of imagery, but no one's going to argue that these are bad photos. The photos we picked, though, are more moody. They're more sort of heavy on the people. It's more contemplative, and it's more sort of social. And I'm not saying these are better, but this brought up an interesting dilemma. Yes, we can tell if something is good or bad, but how do you personalize? Do you get it to a point where the good is relevant for the person that is actually looking for it? How do you get it that a brand or an agency or even a photographer can actually filter out the content that they like? And to give I think the perfect example would be one of our other clients, the Boston Consulting Group, ran this mission. They wanted to license, I think, 50 to 100 photos. The machine thought these 5 photos were best. They're okay photos. Guys are actually looking for this kind of imagery, and they're looking for geometry, tension, construction. This is a data set of around 20, 30,000 photos. So we took those photos, taught the machine to understand what BCG likes, and suddenly, within that same data set, these are the photos that came out of it. So the machine now understands the personal taste. I think now we're actually at the meat of the talk. So what is it to be a photographer? To get inspired, you have to see something that makes you want to take photos. You go out and you take photos, you create, you organize, you store your data, you know, organize the content, whatnot, and then you distribute. I think the most amazing thing is when you want to discover new photographers, and you're not dependent on them having followers. It's actually dependent on the quality of their imagery and whether that imagery appeals to you. That is something that we do quite regularly. So we have our, you know, our popular feed is actually an aesthetic feed. Another really cool thing, which is kind of a first, so we make this magazine every few months. There are a few copies outside at our booth if you guys want to grab and take a look at that. So another thing that we built, which is pretty cool as well, is you have 20,000 photos that are all over the place. You see something nice and you shoot a burst of 10, 15 photos of that. We built an app that would basically take all of those photos, organize them, group them, pick the best in every single photo so you can find your best sunset photos taken 3 years ago in Mallorca. And this app is also another way of helping photographers organize their content. We're building the same for Lightroom, we're building the same for your desktop, we're building the same for the cloud storage. The idea is wherever you are, if you have photos that are unstructured, this will help you structure this content, and it goes one step further because for us also it's important to get content into our marketplace. So when we structure this content, we're ranking it, which means we're also knowing this is a photo that can sell really well, and this is a photo that can go viral on Twitter, and this is a photo that your grandparents are going to really love. We can tell you what to do with your imagery and where to go with your imagery. So the entire funnel from inspiration to organization to distribution is one that has been covered. Brings us to the point, creation. I think the essence of being a photographer is effectively being a photographer. Are we replacing that? And there's a lot of interesting ideas there. Generative AI actually goes more into creating something out of nothing. We've played around a little bit with this, and there's actually quite a few products out there in the wild that aren't related to what we do that are doing that. There's actually designing chairs like the one you see on the top left. There's something called transfer learning. So it takes a photo, and based on that photo and the style, Van Gogh, whatever, you recreate a new photo completely. It's not a filter, it's a recreation. So that's kind of fascinating. There's AIs that are actually mimicking and understanding how humans move and being able to recreate organisms in a way like that. Where as an agency, you don't need to go and buy a photo. You just tell a machine, I need a photo of a dog jumping on the water. And then you will get a photo of a dog jumping on the water. You're like, I need a different dog. I need Jack Russell, and it needs to be a specific color of water, and there needs to be someone kayaking in the background. And the machine will generate this stuff on the fly. We're not very far from that. It's not photography per se. It's just creating imagery for commercial usage. The more interesting side of it is, of course, to talk about what the future holds for photographers, assuming machines don't replace it. And to me, there's two looks at this. There's I guess this topic that is the absolute worst creation of mankind. And I love the fact that I also read a stat that said 93% of all stats on the internet are made up, so I'm not sure, but to me it's a very positive one. But it's not this, though. It's what this implies. Picture a world where your phone is smart, and you're a photography seller. And your phone knows you're walking down some road, and there's an exact photo that someone is trying to buy on Getty Images. Your phone beeps, it says, take me out. You take it out, turn it on, turn on the camera, okay. Hold me up, move the camera, tilt up, tilt down. Your phone is giving you instructions. All right, stop. The phone takes the photo, the phone processes the photo for you, uploads it to Getty, tells you, put me back in your pocket. Basically turning us into glorified selfie sticks. Which absolutely is a massive nightmare. That's the negative view. The positive view, we are in the golden age of photography. Anyone here has taken amazing photos. I'm pretty sure if most of you look in your camera rolls right now, you will find amazing imagery. Maybe one, maybe two. There's this amazing photographer, street photographer called Vivian Meyer. Her photos were in some attic. They were discovered 20, 30 years, 40 years later after her death at some auction. And the person that bought them posted them on Reddit. They went viral, they went super viral, and she is now being exhibited in every single massive gallery in the world and being called one of the most amazing photographers of the 20th century. To me, this is it. To me, this is the future of photography. As a photographer, it's not my job to keyword my photos, it's not my job to organize my photos, it's not my job to sit in Lightroom and add stupid tags to my photos. My job is to see that beautiful moment, hold my breath, breathe out, focus, click the shutter, and my right in this day and age is that that content gets discovered, gets published, gets the appreciation it deserves, and the effect that it deserves. And that's it for me. Thank you very much.